You see them pretty much everywhere. Calorie counts on menus, those really graphic warnings on cigarette packs, maybe an ad that pops up encouraging you to get your steps in. These are all what we call nudges, right? They're designed to make us healthier. But, and this is what we're going to get into today, there's a really fine and honestly a fascinating line between just helpful guidance and something that feels a lot more like outright control.
And really, it all kind of boils down to this one big question. Is your health only your business? Or does society and, by extension, the government, do they have a right to have a say in your choices for the good of everyone else? That's the real conflict, and that's exactly what we're digging into.
Okay, so to get to the bottom of this whole thing, here's our game plan. First up, we're going to figure out what health promotion even means. Then we'll look at this whole spectrum of influence, from a gentle nudge to a hard shove. After that, we'll hit the central dilemma, your personal freedom versus the public good. And finally, we'll tackle that really tough question, where do we draw the line?
All right, so first things first, before we can even start to debate the ethics of all this, we've got to be on the same page. We need to be really clear on what we're even talking about. So, what is health promotion exactly?
Okay, so the official definition from the World Health Organization is actually pretty revealing. Check out the key phrases here: enabling people and increasing control. So the stated goal isn't to force our hand, right? It's supposed to be about empowering us to make better decisions for ourselves.
And if you want to boil it all down to a kind of mission statement, it's this. The whole idea is to design our environment, our world, so that the healthy choice is the easy choice, the default choice. And the unhealthy one, well, that should take a little more effort.
And trust me, we see this everywhere. The goals are super familiar, things we've all heard a million times. Stop smoking, exercise more, eat healthy food, practice safe sex, wear your helmet. I mean, these are the big end games for all those health campaigns we see all the time.
So on the surface, all these goals sound great, don't they? I mean, who doesn't want a healthier society? But, and this is a big but, this is where things start to get ethically complicated. See, the real debate isn't about the goal, it's about the how. It's about the methods we use to get there.
In public health, you can really break the ethics down into three big questions. First, what good are we actually trying to achieve? Second, how do we make sure that good is distributed fairly? And third, and this is the one we're really going to zero in on today, what methods are we allowed to use to achieve it?
And that right there brings us to the absolute heart of our discussion. What tools are considered fair game for a government to use when it's trying to influence your personal choices?
Okay, so to really understand the how, we have to get one thing straight. Not all influence is the same. It really exists on this long spectrum. Everything from a gentle little nudge in one direction all the way to a forceful, undeniable shove. So, way over on one end of that spectrum, you've got persuasion. And the key thing about persuasion is that it appeals to your reason, to your logical brain. It's all about presenting facts, laying out arguments, and then you are left to freely make up your own mind. Now, as we move into the middle, things get a bit murkier. Here we find manipulation, and this is totally different. It doesn't try to appeal to your reason. Instead, it works by subtly, sneakily even, changing how you perceive the situation. And a lot of the time, you don't even realize it's happening.
And this is exactly where that line starts to get really blurry. So on one hand, persuasion appeals to your logical brain, right? It's an open, honest attempt to convince you. But manipulation, well, that works behind the scenes. It's trying to alter your perceptions, often without you even knowing. Just think about one of those scare campaigns that uses fear instead of just facts. Its goal isn't really to inform you, it's to steer you towards a certain decision.
And then, all the way at the other end of the spectrum, you have coercion. This is that forceful shove we talked about. We're talking about using power, threats, or the force of law to make you comply. Your personal choice is pretty much taken right out of the equation.
All right, let's make this concrete with some real-world examples. A pamphlet that just gives you the facts about sugar, that's persuasion. An anti-smoking ad with really graphic images designed to scare you, yeah, that's leaning heavy into manipulation. And a law that says you'll get a fine if you don't wear your seatbelt, that, my friends, is pure coercion.
So this whole spectrum from persuasion to coercion, it brings us right to the heart of the conflict, what we can call the autonomy dilemma. And it's a classic showdown, really. Your right to choose for yourself, versus the government's job to protect the health of everybody.
So let's break down these two competing values.
In one corner, you have individual autonomy. That's your fundamental right to make your own decisions about your own life, even if those are unhealthy choices. And in the other corner, you have the public good. That's the idea that the state has a duty to protect the whole population, which is how they justify things like taxes on alcohol or sugar.
And this whole conflict forces us to ask a really direct and kind of uncomfortable question. When is it acceptable for a government to limit your freedom? Not to protect other people, but to protect you from yourself.
You know, from an ethical standpoint, the justification usually comes down to a trade-off. It's like a cost-benefit analysis. A pretty minor infringement on your freedom, like, say, a law making you wear a seatbelt, is generally seen as okay because the potential health gain, literally preventing death or a catastrophic injury, is just so massive in comparison.
Okay, so we've looked at the different methods, we've unpacked the central dilemma, so where does all of this leave us? The ultimate question is still hanging in the air. Where do we, as a society, actually draw the line?
Now, this quote from the source material is absolutely crucial. It's a powerful reminder that no matter how good the intentions are, any action that steps on someone's personal choice comes with an ethical cost. It is always a shortcoming that has to be justified.
You know, there's an argument out there that goes something like this. Hey, commercial advertising is manipulating us all the time, so why not counter-manipulate for a good cause? But the source we're looking at warns that this is a slippery slope. It points out two huge risks. First, the more we're manipulated, even for good reasons, the less autonomous we become overall. And second, it can actually damage our critical thinking skills because we get used to seeing skewed or false information.
And that leads us to what is maybe the most important takeaway here. The idea is that the most ethical path forward isn't more manipulation or more top-down control. Instead, it might be to focus on empowering people, on strengthening our ability as individuals and as a society to make our own informed, truly autonomous choices. So, that leaves us with one last big, challenging question to think about. In this constant tug of war between public health and personal freedom, who gets the final say, you or the state? Thanks for watching.